Hello again, everybody. Where's my streamer? Where'd he go? Here he is. I don't know. I'm in a mood today. What's up, everybody? It's another Tuesday. Jam-packed full of fun activities. So we're doing a little bit of content first. Shouldn't take too long. And then late night on Twitch, I'm just going to be continuing the top 100 speedrun grind on Jump Force Starters, which I'm very excited for. So without any further ado, I know you guys read the title. You know what's coming up next. You know, we all know why we're here, and that is to hear my review of the McDonald's Big Arch Burger. Now for real, I did have it. I had it last night, and it was fine. It was underwhelming, I will say. I like it better than the double quarter pounder, but it's barely better than, like, if they were the same price, I would pick the Arch Burger every time, but it was, I don't know, not worth the hype, I would say. Like, everything was slightly, like, the cheese is slightly better, the crispy onions, you know, that was probably the best part of it, the crunchiness, like, that was nice. And, like, the burger sauce was okay. It was fine. I liked it, but it was, like, very mild. And so it was, like, you know, it's a huge-ass burger. I was, like, you know, 2/3 of the way through and no longer, you know, as hungry. I'm like, this just tastes the same as a double quarter pounder. Like, it's the same thing as a double quarter pounder. Just a little crunchier, and then the burger sauce was good. It's just, it wasn't enough, you know? Yeah, it's basically a nicer Big Mac. But I will say, I hate the Big Mac sauce. I just don't like the way it tastes for whatever reason, so that's a plus. But there you go. That's it for the content. Just kidding. We obviously have real content to get through. Give me a second to pull it up. Okay. And okay, here we go. Here's the content for today. McDonald's food tier list. No, I'm just kidding. We're not doing that. Oh, all right. So, no, what are we actually doing today? We are actually, well, actually, I have to pull it up now. This time for real. I'm pulling the real thing up. I, yesterday, went on a little coding adventure. That would have been peak content. I think, okay, honestly, I don't think I've had enough of the McDonald's menu items to actually make a good tier list. I always get, like, McChickens and, the same shit, the cheapest shit on the dollar menu, sometimes quarter pounder, maybe in the future, but like 60% of it would have been bullshit. Anyway, stop distracting me, Josh. Hide panel spec GUI. All right, so we all saw the title. Today we are going over, I was saying last night, I don't know, I had a burst of inspiration. I was like, you know what, I want to get my AI to learn to surf, and so here we are in Team Fortress 2. It's paused right now, but some of you might recognize the map. It is a map that goes by the name of Surf Beginner. What better of a of course we start on Surf Beginner. What better, where else would we start? Another thing about this map is it's a level, you know, level by level. There are some surf maps that are, I forget what the name is, but they're like, you know, it's like 3 minutes to do a whole run of the entire map. This map has 7 levels, and as you can see, this is the first one, and it's quite simple. Yeah, staged and linear. Thank you, Chan. Glad we got a ball nowhere in chat. So this is staged, and that is very helpful for AI training, obviously, so that we can get some different experience. So the saga is I spent, I don't know, it was literally just yesterday, so I haven't had a ton of time to really get into the training, but it was like 3 hours or something to reverse engineer the plugin I use to control the bots and actually give them the ability to airstrafe. If you've been following along the YouTube saga, you would know for my deathmatching version of the AI bots, their aim just snaps immediately to where they want to aim. So in terms of the input they're giving, the AI chooses a 3-dimensional vector to aim at, and it'll just instant snap to it. That's how it worked in the past. Now, to make this work, I've actually completely changed that control dynamic, and Now the machine learning algorithm is actually directly controlling the angular speed of rotation, which is a little janky, because obviously in the real world we have mice, and it's not just like, it's not like a joystick. I guess if you were surfing on controller, I'm sure some people do that. I guess that's not the craziest thing. But so you might notice the bots are kind of spinning weirdly, not quite how a player would. But that's just, this is the simplest way to implement air strafing, because of course, for those of you not familiar with the source engine, to air strafe you need to slowly curve your mouse while holding a direction. And previously they were not able to do that, and now they are. So without further ado, I guess, well, this is a demo, so this is not a live run, but I actually do currently have a live run going, and I'm trying to buy a little time before I show you what's happening with that. You can see it's at epoch 95 out of 100. So we'll come back to that. Just move these back out of the way. All right, so this is a replay, and not just any replay. If you've seen my main channel videos, you'll know I have something that I like to call color gradient. I'll go ahead and start playing now so we can see what's going on. And the fun thing with color gradient is it kind of shows you a series of snapshots over the course of the training. 100 epoch run, which is what I'm doing right now, takes about 2 hours from start to finish. It is running at 2 times time scale, the training right now. So what this is it's showing you every 2 epochs basically, and the color will gradually shift from red to green, and at the very end of all these playbacks it will show all of them together. You glide along the wall after you fire a rocket? Yeah, sort of. You don't actually need to. Surfing is no rockets at all. There is something called jerfing, which is a portmanteau of rocket jumping and surfing. That's a little different. So yeah, I guess that is a good point, though. I should explain surfing for those of you who haven't seen it before, for those of you who are not resident surf experts in the chat. So surfing originated in probably source 1.6. I'm not a historian, I don't know. But it's a source engine specific thing. And basically what people found is that if you change this, I'll even show it. If you change this server CVAR called SV Air Accelerate, right now it's set to 150. The default is 10. You do need to have a mod server in order to change that. But so the normal air acceleration, it's just a value that controls how quickly you can strafe in the air. TF2 players will know that if you ever you're going too fast and you try to strafe too suddenly, you'll like scrub off all your speed. You won't be able to actually change direction. And what people found is in the source engine, if you crank that up, and the accepted value is 150, it actually allows you to strafe into angled ramps, which is what this is. This is an angled ramp, and you'll start to notice as the bots get slightly better, they're going to start strafing, aka air accelerating, into the ramp, and that's going to like push them upwards. So they're right now trying to get to this platform. Here, let me get a better camera angle just statically so you can see that one. He made it. He like cut into the ramp basically, and that gave him just enough lift to get there. Funnily enough, you can actually do this level 1 with the default SV Air Accelerate I tested. So this one's not very hard, but like I said, we're about halfway through right now on the playback. I could even speed it up a little bit because it'll take a little while. We have a few of these to get through. Let's just do like 200% speed. And I'll slow it back down, and at the end, this is my color gradient program, and it will put basically one bot from each of these different colored groups. So right now these guys are around epoch 50 or so. I don't have a text readout on the what is it called? The replay, STV. I don't have a text readout like I would if this was live training. So I don't know exactly what epoch it's on. But you can see now they're starting to turn a little more green. They're starting to more consistently get close to the platform. Not quite as precise as a real speedrunner. You can see Some of them are strafing a little early, some of them are strafing a little late, but they've got the right idea here. And indeed, more and more are making it to the final platform. Woo! It's a little bit more now. Let me hide my HUD. Now you can see it's later in the training. This is probably 85, Epoch 85 out of 100 or so. And pretty much every time, at least one of them is making it to the end. Now it is a little, I do have to warn you guys, because the color grad, the final color grad run is going to be just one bot from every single training run. The green might not show out as well as it would. Because just having one chance at it, you can see even though they're pretty well trained, not all of them are making it to the end yet, obviously. So let's see, we should be coming up on it now, yeah. A few more thousand. Speed up, and then slow down to 100, and I'll try to zoom in. There we go, so here's all the colors. You can see the greens generally have a better idea. But like I said, it gets a little jumbled because there's only one, and it's a pretty short replay, but you know, pretty colors and so on. And let's move right along now to the second map of the level. Now, as you could tell, the first level, hella fucking easy. Again, you don't even need a, where's the second level? This map's a little fucking weird. And this is the second level, so now it's basically the same ramp from the first one, but there is a second ramp. And both of these are the same exit, it doesn't matter. I had them target specifically this one, so that's why they're all going towards the right here. And you will immediately start to notice something very impactful. Let me up the speed. Let's do full speed. You'll notice, so that red is, again, the very beginning of the training run. And you'll notice very quickly they figure out what they need to do in order to get more reward. And that is basically just vector directly towards the goal and not really surf. So welcome to machine learning, where no matter how good you try, it doesn't matter. The bots will find every possible way to break your setup. And while this is running, because it'll take another minute or two to get to the end, I will say there was an issue I had before. Hold on, can you guys see my mouse? Yes. There was an issue I had before that was really funny where the bots figured out how to defeat my shit, basically. And the way I have, there's a certain reward bonus that I give them for beating the level. And on these staged levels, this is a teleport. So they basically touch this, they teleport to the next level. And so to reward them for beating the level, I have like a, is it inside the level bounds check. And very funnily, not funny at the time because it was frustrating and annoying, but very funny after the fact, they were actually managing somehow to clip into this wall on the start platform. They were clipping in by like 0.03 hammer units, which if you don't know is like an infinitesimally small amount, okay? It's like you can't even really see. And basically getting the win bonus from very slightly clipping into the wall by almost nothing. So I was like, why are they going backwards? Oh, why are they backward surfing? Oh, I was talking. Why are they trying to backward surf? Yes, good question. Here, I'll even show it again. And I'll skip to the, skip further into it. But they're surfing backwards because of what I described with how they're being controlled. So again, the version of Francis, or the version of the reinforcement learning AI that I've used for all my other projects, for rocket jumping and for death matching, they pick a point to aim at. And now what they do is actually just get an angular velocity. So basically they're just spinning around, and they don't really stop spinning. And because of that, and also because their vision is not tied to looking forward, they'll strafe sideways, they'll strafe backwards, they don't give a fuck. And for whatever reason, these bots think that backwards is better. You can see they're even going backwards, just running off the platform, which is, I I mean, they're defying the reward structure to do that, basically. Because I believe it is a 10% movement speed penalty for going backwards. So they could go 10% faster and therefore get, you know, maybe 10% more reward by facing forward and going off the ramp. But, you know, whatever works, whatever is what works. On the first level, they were going forwards. I'm not training them to do anything except try to get closer to this goal. They themselves have decided that cracked ass backwards is the way to go, which is funny. Another point, during the actual training, this is the color grad playback, so it's not exactly how it is during the training, but they all start with completely random, so that they basically fill up this entire start platform, and they all have randomized aim to start. So it's not like they always, you know, start with the training facing forward and they turn around. They start in all random directions, and then for whatever reason on this level they decided that backwards was the best way. Kind of funny. That's the magic of reinforcement learning. You can't. I can give them guidance, like I can say, you know, try to get closer to the goal. And in fact, what the reward exactly is for this task is they get points, I guess you call it, reward value. They get reward for 1, being closer to that goal over there, and 2, velocity towards the goal, and those are just added together. Basically, they're about equal weight in terms of the how much they're valued in the reward. But let's speed it up a little bit, and we'll get to the final hodgepodge of all the colors again. This run is the one that I pulled the thumbnail on YouTube for, if you're wondering. A little bit more, a little bit more. I don't want to overshoot it though. Here. Close enough. So you can see the green, you know, has the right idea. I mean, get started, but it doesn't see the ramp. That is another crucial issue here. So there's actually a few different ways you could solve that, and in fact, let's join back on my server, so I can go into a little bit more, and not because the demo ends obviously, and then I just get kicked to main menu. So this is the run. It did just finish. Luckily, the lighting's all funky, but this is what it looks like at the start of each round, basically. So they all do seem to be aiming the same direction. Maybe that's an issue that have not fixed, but at least they're not aiming in the exact same direction. This one's aiming a little that way. But this is what it gets randomized at the start. The aim should be more randomized as well. And yeah, I've just finished the, I'll show you. Just finished the run that I showed briefly earlier. And you can see it didn't really improve past about halfway through. So its best result was an epoch, 59 out of 100, and it failed to improve further. But sometimes that is a little misleading. So let's look at the actual server readout. Looks like its best PB. It got 860 as the reward, and that was in trial 900 out of 1200, basically. So epoch 80 or so, slightly better, but not quite where we want it to be. I'll explain what that training run was in just a second. So, but first let's go back over here because it's a little easier and have a look. I choose you bot number 48. Now let me show you guys how they're actually being controlled, because I think that will help make it a little clearer as to what's happening. Here, I'll just frame him up so that there's no distractions. Okay. So the way you would control the bot is this command sml bot strafe. In the past, I have this command bot aim, and actually I can just demo the differences. So let's see, bot 48. There's actually 2 bots sitting overlaid on each other right now. But you guys should still be able to see. So let's say bot aim, which direction am I aiming right now? See, I'll show pose 1. This is minus Y. This is plus X. Okay. So right now he's facing the plus X direction. And if I go to do SML bot aim, and let's have him do a 180. So now it's the negative 100, 0, 0. He didn't do anything. Okay, maybe I didn't test this. Okay, well, he's not turning. I guess that's annoying. It doesn't know anything about the ramp at all. Correct. It does seem like an important part to being able to surf, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But let me just, again, show off the bot strafe. Bot 48. Oh, it also might not be bot 48, actually. I'm realizing now that it's two different names. It's bot 45. Is that an 8? It looks like an 8. Okay, well, whatever. Let's try 48 again, and now it's just one number, and he spins. So that was bot strafe 1. If I do bot strafe 0.1, it's about 1/10 of that speed. But this is now how he's being controlled. Instead of just aiming at a specific vector, it is a angular velocity that does not stop until he's given a new angular velocity. And so I think there's also a big precision issue that I have not been able to fix yet. And of course, now that they're not shooting rockets, it's still on the same interval, which is it updates every 0.8 seconds, which is quite a big gap. And I would say they definitely could gain a lot more precision from having a much more granular, ability, like a faster update rate, basically. But yeah, Chan, you're on the right track, because basically the way they beat level 1 and they tried to beat level 2 is the blind maze game. So they don't know where the ramp is. They don't know anything except their position and velocity relative to the goal that's over here. So of course they're completely blind. They don't see these ramps. It's like it's this, and they're just trying to go straight this way, and all they see is black. So of course that is an obvious issue. Unfortunately, it does not have the simplest solutions, and like I said, I just got this working yesterday, so there's many more things I can try. There's no shortage of different strategies one could use to try and solve this issue. One is you could literally have the AI, a different neural network, look at the screen and try to process that. That would be probably the most difficult to get working right, but the most versatile. A better option would probably be giving them information about the next ramp that they have to hit. So it would be, while they're on this ramp, they get info about this ramp, and then as soon as they leave it, they get info about this ramp. But that has its own issues, because not all ramps are created equal, and you have to make the data structured a certain way. And then another way that I think is promising could be shooting out, so like pseudo eyesight almost, shooting out these things called raycasts. So let's say like a grid, like a 3x3 grid, and some of them are angled up, and some of them are at the mid-level, and some of them are angled down, and everything in between, and kind of read the surface that they're approaching. But I think, and then of course it bears mentioning, the most simple way to beat this level 2 that we're actually going to try right now is a little bit of a cheater way, honestly, but basically having 2 goals. So goal 1, instead of being, them going directly from the spawn platform to here, which, maybe they could eventually figure out given the right learning parameters, maybe. But the easier way is you have them aim right here first, and then the second they cross this threshold, then you give him to lead towards this. So before I talk any more about that, though, because these runs take a while to run, let's actually do that. So this is the little piece of code that would accomplish that. Update obs stands for update the observation. So an observations is just another word for what the bot sees. So you can see it's getting the target position of the goal, basically, relative to where they are. And if the Y value crosses this threshold, which is again pretty much at this wall right here. So as soon as they cross this plane here, then the goal will switch to here right now. And the first goal is here, I think, right at the top of the center of this ramp. Now, disclaimer, have not tested this. I would guesstimate like a 90% chance of this fucking breaking in some way that I'm not aware of. Let me just real quick. I didn't even get a chance to test this before going live, so let me just make sure. This is the text file that has all of the information about each of the levels that the program loads in each time. And so goal 2 is the teleport at the side, and goal 1 is directly down the middle. I know these are just numbers that mean nothing to you guys, but trust me, that's what it is. And so I do think it's goal 2 minus goal 1. Let me think. Yeah, goal 2 minus goal 1. Okay, so again, haven't tested this. We are going to find out right now, and you guys will also be able to see the actual startup procedure. We're not going to watch the whole training run. Luckily, I have fixed it recently so that I can run a training run without needing to actually be live on the server, which is a huge help. So we're going to go down here. Oh, and there's the command. So run the surf thing, 32 agents, level, second level beginner, and bam. And let me just make sure host timescale is 2. And yeah, so the beginning of the training is a little boring. It's 100 steps of pure random training. So this is actually, there's literally nothing to see at first. I was gonna show the run that just finished while I was live, but it basically looked the exact same as the color gradient run I just showed, which is to say, they just wandered off in this diagonal direction again. What I added actually was to try to incentivize them to build up horizontal speed. So here, there's nothing really happening here. Flashbang. So the reward that you just saw was 2 things. It was distance from goal. Fuck. What's the opposite of a vector? A fucking scalar. So the scalar distance from the goal. Here, I'll even zoom in. Shit. Distance from goal scalar. I guess I have to press enter. Okay. Plus the velocity towards the goal, also a scalar. If you don't know what a scalar is, it doesn't even matter. I actually shouldn't have even mentioned it because it doesn't matter. But this is the current, that was the reward that you just saw. Now what the run that you didn't see that just ended was, I also added another factor called, which is just the velocity in XY plane, also a scalar. This is why I should have mentioned that it's a scalar. They're all scalars. Vector rewards are more complicated. Okay, math, whatever. It's three things. So this is, I'm just saying, this is what it was that you just saw. All of the color grad runs you're gonna see today were this, and then the one I just added was this. Now what this factor is supposed to do is it's supposed to incentivize like building up horizontal speed. So basically it like, you know, you could combine these two, hold on. You could like, you could say that these two are basically 2 of this one, except this one does not have to be towards the goal. So for levels where they, you know, especially for levels like this one, number 2, we want them to build up speed, but that speed isn't necessarily towards the goal. It's along the ramp that they can't see it. So of course they're going to be bad at it. This is still random, by the way. They have not started actually learning yet. We can check on this. When this number, trial number 44 right now, once it hits 100, it will start learning. But yeah, basically I tried this new factor and it really did not make any difference at all. I was hoping that maybe it would incentivize them enough to try to hold their horizontal speed, but it did not. And there's millions of things you can fucking try tweaking and testing to try to get this to work. Maybe it could, like maybe I need to square this, you know, maybe I need to square this, maybe this needs to be a square root, whatever it is, you know, there's endless variations. And you basically have to spend 2 hours each time you want to see which one does better. So I do have some more things I can show you, I guess. Yeah, let's come back to this. We'll check back in on these guys, and hopefully the goal switching will accomplish what we want. And we'll see very quickly, you know, either they will go straight on this ramp like they were in level 1 and then suddenly change direction, or they'll do something completely wrong and there's some other issue that I don't know. Again, I put that at like a 90% chance because this is untested, and pretty much the rule of thumb is anytime I don't test something, it breaks. Pretty much every single time. Doesn't know which direction to hold when they're on the ramp. Yes and no. So do they understand it? It's more of a philosophical question of whether they understand it or not. But what they do learn is which combinations of actions give them the best reward. Now, if we're rewarding them for, you know, the more velocity towards this point here, they are going to, by association, learn that holding left on the right side of the ramp and holding right on the left side of the ramp is the way to get more reward, and from that they'll learn. And that's also why they can learn by doing it backwards as well. And it's the same thing but opposite. It gets all of those things, and from enough data it learns kind of the complex interactions behind it. And one of the key issues of reinforcement learning, as we saw in the previous run on level 2, is that if they don't get started on the thing that's going to teach them what's right, they're not going to learn. So they didn't understand that the ramp was there because, 1, they don't see it, but 2, they were getting reward from just going this direction. And because that direction happened to not be on the ramp, didn't matter what they changed really, it was still like, okay, well, all we see is that going this way is the way to get the most reward, so that's what we're just going to do over and over. They don't understand the geometry of the level. And obviously they could. That is, again, a big shortcoming currently. And it's also the same big issue that I had with the rocket jumping and the death matching bots, is that they don't see enough. I guess not as much the death matching bots because I just forced them to be on a flat map. But again, it's a very slow way to learn. They're like, you know, it's instead of the 3 blind mice, it's the 32 blind bots. Fail on fall maps. Yeah, and of course, you know, each one could design very specifically a way for each level, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to do this, you know, goal 1, goal 2 deal, is because that's a bit of a slippery slope. I've been working on these types of projects for almost 2 years now, I would say, and that's the slippery slope. It's like, okay, well, if you're just going to tell it what point to go to, why not just, you know, it's like, oh, 2 points, and then you try and more complicated. Okay, now it's like 15 different goals and checkpoints, and oh, maybe I tweak this one, maybe I tweak at a certain point. It's like, well, why not just surf it yourself, right? So it's a bit of a, it's more of a fun technical kind of challenge than it is something that's super practically useful, I would say. In general, reinforcement learning is like not good at stuff unless you give it tons of data. So unless the bots can see that the ramps are here, they can see, you know, what the goal is, they understand, you know, ideally they have like a base model that's already trained on physics, so they don't have to relearn like fundamental things like gravity or what the jump button does, because they're starting from 0 every single time effectively. That's why it's doing these random steps. And you can see it actually just started. It's 6 runs now into the actual training run. Already they're pretty centered. They're slowly starting to learn what the ramp does and how to get slightly further to this goal. So we'll come back to it. Again, this is a 2-hour training run or so, and luckily I can just leave. But that's not the end of my training. Despite only getting this working yesterday, I did manage to get training done on 3 different levels, and this is the last one of those. It's actually level 4, but I will show you. This is level 3. I opted to skip level 3 for reasons that should be obvious at this point. It's that they need to go down this way, and then they need to come back this way, so it's a 2-ramp thing. And, you know, given it would do the exact same thing as on level 2. They would spawn right here, and then they would just try to walk off this direction and go directly towards the goal, not knowing that there's a wall there. It's not the biggest issue with reinforcement learning is that it's bad at intelligently exploring. The exploration basically comes down to here's 10% noise on all of your actions, and from that it learns how to slowly work its way one way or the other. So if it's not getting incremental rewards, it doesn't learn. Anyway, so I decided to just skip level 3, but you'll notice here's level 4, and lucky for us, it's actually all in a straight line. Now it is another 2-ramp level, and it's pretty tricky. Obviously, even though this is the beginner map, I would say this is where it starts to actually get a little bit tighter and not as simple. And you missed the beginning of the training run, obviously, but what's interesting is even though I would say this level is much harder than level 2 because of all the things we've described, this one is actually a lot easier for the bots to learn. Now, spoiler alert, they did not manage to beat this level. I think even if they played it perfectly, the training runs, the individual training runs are too short. It's only 10 steps basically for them, and so I think even if they were optimal, the run would end and they're like right here on this next ramp. But that didn't stop them from trying to get over. And you'll notice they're already starting to do the right thing. Some of them are trying to strafe into the ramp and build speed over, like that guy, see? But then also, I didn't even know that you could fucking crouch. Yeah, no, a few of them are flicking. But I didn't know that you could actually crouch through these. I never knew. And obviously, you know, they don't know. They see this as, oh, this is closer to the goal. So this is more, you know, crawling through this ramp is more reward, or through this barrier is more reward than here. Yeah, you can crouch through them. So you can crouch through while holding speed. I think I saw one of them during the training crouch through with speed, but it's, since they're blind, you know, it's basically random to which ones can get through. It does not have the precision needed to reliably go through the little pockets there. That is fascinating, though. That makes sense. But yeah, they're starting to flick. Now, some of them you can also see the lack of precision. Again, it's a 0.8%, or sorry, not 0.8%. Every 0.8 seconds, they're allowed to get a new angular velocity, which is quite a big, you know, almost a full second. It's quite a big gap. So you'll see some of them start to cut the ramp too early, some of them start to cut too late, but generally they're getting the idea. It did seem to be, for whatever reason, they were all favoring this left side, though. You can see the ones on the right, they clearly do understand the difference between the left and the right of the ramp. Because the ones that end up on the left side of the ramp, they still hold D. They're just not flicking to the right, like the ones who are on the right side of the ramp. You can see that guy went early, but then that guy, he got close. And a few of them are, you know, poking their heads over. So this one I actually ran much longer than the other 2 runs we've seen. This was my one overnight run, basically. So the other 2, is it possible to train them from a successful human run? Indeed, it is. It is. And that is a project I'd like to explore in the future. But I think it also falls into the camp a little bit of, if you already know the answer, if you're going to just give them the answer, what are we doing here? You know, what are we really accomplishing? We're learning about this stuff, but you know, what I want to see is I want to see these bots be able to learn any surf map within reason, you know, on their own without needing a specialized reward thing or without needing a human to kind of seed the run. But you're right, it totally is possible, and it is an interesting topic, so 100% guarantee at some point in the future I will be doing that. So here's the color grad run. Again, it's a little hard to see. The green guy made it pretty far, but because there's only one bot for each epoch, and it's in a lot of ways a numbers game, it was not able to get over. Now, I did predict this in advance. I knew hold on. I knew that was going to happen, so give me 1 second. I actually recorded some video during the training, late in the training, which is impossible to get otherwise because it's like an 8-hour STV and they always seem to crash. The longer ones always crash. So let me pull up the video file here. Give me just 1 secundo. Which one is it? Hold on. None of these clips are named. They're all just timestamp. So I have to figure out which one was the earliest timestamp today. This one? Was it this one? Yes. Okay. So here's a video I took. This was about 500 epochs or so into the total 512 epochs. And let's have a look here. Just trying to move the camera around. So you can see they're flicking even more. In general, I would say maybe like a quarter of them are doing the right action to be able to flick over this ramp. And some of this video, I think maybe right here, see that guy got close. There was one that I recorded that did make it over the barrier. So it was like every few epochs, one of them would successfully clear the top of the barrier. Maybe this isn't the right clip, actually. I think I have a few. Yeah, hold on. I definitely have a few. Let me try a different one. Or maybe I deleted it by accident. Ain't no way, brother. Oh shit, did I really delete it? God damn it. I swear, I thought that was the one. Hold on, maybe let's just play it again. Yeah, okay, there it was. It was early. You can see that first guy did indeed make it over. And this was, you know, I'm not going to show you like a 30-minute replay because it's not. Come pack up my room. No. Yeah, on the first part of the last clip. Yes, thank you. Yeah, so you just have to take my word for it. This was happening probably every like 4 or 5 epochs. One of them would make it over. And then he would like appropriately, you know, go for this ramp. Like he was setting up for the ramp. So from that, it's like, that's kind of the key thing I talked about with level 2. Even though this level's harder and, you know, very few of them, even after 10 hours of training, which is how long it took. Even after 10 hours of training, your house is getting gassed. Jesus Christ. All right, shut up, Josh. Don't distract me. We're talking about surfing still. I'm almost done. I'll just play it again in the background. So even though, again, it's a harder level and very few of them were making it over, just having one on a repeating setup, like every few epochs, is enough to tell me they were on the right track. So it's like, maybe it would take another 100 times longer of training, but I do think eventually they would have figured out how to beat this level. And if you compare that back to level 2, which I will join back in on now. If you compare it to level 2, which is obviously way easier, I think you could train that one for 1,000 times as long, 1,000 times, and it would not figure out how to beat level 2. Because the key thing that people forget with reinforcement learning is it kind of needs to hit that breadcrumb to be able to learn enough to improve. If it doesn't take that first step, it doesn't get there. And we can see this is still pretty early in the training, but it does look like they've gotten better at surfing this first ramp. There you go. And then he turned and he faced this one, so I assume it's working. Again, it's not tested, so if there's anything that's going to break, it's going to be the second stage. But over time, they should learn also. They should be able to absorb all of this knowledge. It is slow. Oh, hold on. Was I not showing any of that? God damn it. I'm just talking. So you can see here they are learning to surf this first ramp a little better. And let's see one of them break past the barrier. There you go. What you guys didn't see, it was one of them landed right here basically and then immediately turned towards the goal. Again, I chose for them. I told them to go to this one, but this one would also work. There you go. See that one? He hit the middle and then immediately went and looked at this. So they're trying. All that guy needs to do is hit hit D, hold D, and he'll get to the end of the ramp. Probably won't get to the platform, but just from getting to the end of the platform, he'll get more reward, and then more and more of them will understand, oh, we want to go here, and then we want to go here, and that's how we get more reward. And eventually, hopefully, they'll get to the exit and actually beat the level. But again, this is pretty early in the training. This is only 10% of the way through. You can see these are the PBs. I can't highlight it or it'll break. If I click anywhere on this, it will cause the program to hang, which I don't want to have happen. But you can see it PB'd in epoch number 1, then number 2, then number 5, number 6, number 8, and now it's on number 10. So hopefully it keeps PBing. That type of feedback, the PB every few epochs, is very good. That's means it's learning generally. But yeah, that's all I got for today. Like I said, I just got it working yesterday. It was like a whole day of work, just figuring out all of the little issues with making them aim. So obviously all of this is very rough. They have no eyesight. They have very rough controls. But it's cool that they beat level 1 so easily. And actually, I'll just, because I have nothing else to talk about, I will show the level 1 through level 4 again, so you guys can see. Because why not? We'll go through it fast now. So you can see again, from the start, they know to go, it's like you can see the stages. At the very beginning, when they know nothing about the ramp, they're just like, oh, walk this way. Let's go this way. That's closer to the target. Then from walking that way, then they start to interact with the ramp. And then they're on the ramp. And then when they're on the ramp, now they're starting to learn, oh, surfing into the side of the ramp and holding the D key is getting us even closer. And they figured out about pretty early in this run, probably about epoch 30 or 40, they one is when the first one gets to the target. But they do continue and improve. So you can see maybe one of these guys is 1, 2, 3 now making it to the target. By the end, it's like half of them are consistently making it to the target. Yeah, trying to do it blind. I mean, that's the key. Obviously, to show this better to you guys, I do really want to give them some information about the map. Another benefit of that, for example, is all of these 3 models I showed you guys, level 1, then level 2, then level 4, those are all separate training models. You can't, if you try to put the level 4 onto level 1, it's not going to work, because it's not learning how to surf as much as it's learning how to navigate one particular level. Now here we are on the original level 2, which is the bad one. I always forget. This map's also like, level 1 is like going this direction, level 2 goes the same direction, and level 3 is like 90 degrees, level 4 is like a different 90 degree from that. Yeah, so here's level 2 again. I will speed it up once again. But you can see, interestingly enough, on level 2, the earlier iterations do better, because they just don't understand. They don't even understand that the correct direction is here yet. They're just walking in random directions, and then the ones that make it onto the ramp get further to our human eyes, where we understand the path is this one, then onto this one. But the bots don't understand that, and so actually, as the training goes along, they get fewer and fewer looks at being able to touch this ramp. So again, it's a bit like leaving breadcrumbs. Designing that's what makes designing a reward function so difficult, because it's very hands-off. One reward function has to rule them all. It has to get them from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, and then from point C to point D, and then from point D to point E, and then from point E to F. It's not, when we have these different level geometries, unless you want to by hand set up checkpoints, that basically does the hard part for them. And in my argument, why bother at that point? Unless you want to do that, it can be very tricky to get a general reward function that is, one, strong enough, that is, I'll say it like this, that is, good enough to get them through every single link of the chain to the end, and also is a strong enough signal that they can, learn it despite all of the noise that's present. And so it's all very fascinating. Again, I would classify reinforcement learning as like it's a fun thing to learn about. It's an interesting thing. It has definitely very good uses, but pretty much all of the best uses are gated by you need a ton of data. And for something like this, we're running in a real-time game, and having to generate all that data up front, again, I could save some of it, but then it's like if the code changes slightly, then all of a sudden you can't use older data because the rewards are different and this and that. It's not as useful for this type of thing, but it's still fun, and so I'm gonna keep working at it, obviously. Here, I'll just slow it down right at the end here, and we can see the explosion of color that basically goes that basically goes nowhere. Hold on a little bit more. There it is. It's colorful, but it's not showing the clear improvement that we would like to see. And then I'll just show the color grad for one more time before we check back in on our final guy. Hey, thanks for hanging out. All right, and I always forget where the fucking levels are on this map. Here we go. So you guys didn't see the very beginning before. You're still not seeing it. There. So you can see at the very beginning of the training, they're not understanding to hold on to the ramp. And then pretty quickly they do, like that guy already made it. But clearly they get better over time. They're even starting to flick this early in the training. It just takes that long for them to blindly navigate and figure out how to get better. Because, I mean, really, there's not a big difference between just surfing the ramp straight and hitting here and stopping, as there is surfing cutting into the ramp and hitting the very top of it. Both of them get rewarded pretty much the same, and in fact, just slowing down and crawling through probably gets more reward than doing the correct thing, which is flicking off the top and trying to get over. So it's another example of all the little intricacies and how your reward function really has to work at every single point of the map. And you can see that's exactly what's happening. As the training's going on, they're not getting like that much better. Like I said, like one of the deep red ones was flicking off the ramp like you should. And so if they knew that was the best technique and they got the most reward from that, they would have gotten better at it. But instead, what they're getting better at is clambering through the barrier. That's what they get better at. You know, only if you, in fact, one of them just made it over, if you saw on the edge of my screen. But it's all about the reward. And so that's the big difference you'll see as I go ahead and just speed it up. You'll see that more and more of them make it through the cheese grater, because that's what's getting them the most reward. And so the way I would fix this level probably is do a similar thing with level 2 where it's a split checkpoint. So checkpoint 1 would be higher up, like this point. And then once they cross this barrier, then checkpoint 2 would be over here. And it's tricky too because I'm specifically not rewarding any Z values. So the bots actually do not see any reward whatsoever from... They don't see any reward whatsoever from being too high or too low. I actually completely took out all of the Z because it could be a distraction for something like level 1, where obviously they have to go down. But obviously, you know, the bots, they need to see, at some point, they need to understand the Z value, so it becomes, okay, how do I reintroduce this part of the reward without complicating things, without creating too much noise for the bots, basically. So here we are again, and you can see, yeah, now they're starting to hang on the ramp. Eventually, they'll hopefully start to cheat towards the left. They're getting a little too low on the ramp. Hopefully they will learn. Again, I'd set the target up here very high on purpose, but they don't really get a Z value. So they're just trying to go through, I guess, which should still get them further up the ramp. even though they don't see reward from the sea. But yeah, basically that's the summary of it. There's so many, I could talk forever about every little detail of every little thing, because there's so much out there that you could change and make better to make this. But yeah, that does it for the content for now. I am going to leave this training run running. Here, I'll show the windows again. Shoot, this one. It's on epoch 16 now. It did PB in number 11. This is all still fine. It does, another funny thing is that you actually don't want to see it improve epoch after epoch after epoch, unless it's a really easy task. But it's kind of necessary if you watch enough reinforcement learning like I have. I've got, you know, probably 3,000 of my Steam TF2 hours have been logged watching training runs. And you'll actually notice that over time, they'll PB and then they'll fall off again, and then they'll PB higher and then they'll fall off again. And I think that's really healthy, actually, because if all you're doing is just trying to get, you know, exploits, like they were in the previous thing where they were just diagonally going towards the goal, if they're just trying to get better at the same thing over and over, they're not exploring. So kind of, you know, it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. But the step back is important so they don't get pigeonholed into what's called a local minimum. Oh, another good way to test is this, because this is this bottom one is the Python script, the upper level thing that's running everything. This one has a normalization on it, which means it's like averaging. It has like a rolling average, which means these epochs can be kind of inaccurate sometimes. It also just PB'd on number 18. But this is the top window is the real test. These numbers are the reward values, and they are not scaled by anything. These are the raw values. So if it PB's here, you know it's real, and it just PB'd in trial 299. Obviously, I wasn't showing the screen, so you guys couldn't see what that was about, but there you go. So it's going to run for probably another hour and a half, and we're going to check. So it's 9 right now. We'll check back in at 10:30. But that's it for the real content tonight, unless, of course, I decided I could always pull the McDonald's food tier list back up. But yeah, luckily I can keep this running now, which is going to be a huge help. Shout out to Josh.
2 hours later.
Oh shit, I forgot. We're supposed to check on the... Hold on, this is the beginning of the run. Let's actually just check on the... Let's check on our surfing bots and see how they're doing. I'll probably have to restart TF2 again to get rid of the air accelerate, but it's okay. There you go. So it's it PB'd up to 70. It looks like it's pretty smoothly improving. This is all good signs. But has it learned enough to actually beat level 2? Let's find out right now. All right, what do you guys got for me? Okay. Well. Well, it looks like I messed something up, because they're going for the goal and then they're not going for the second goal. Unless they are? I don't know. It looks like they're trying to stay in the middle. So to me, it looks like I probably messed up. Something's not working right with the switching the goal to this point over here. Because if it was correct by now, like that guy would try to get over more and fall off the ramp. But instead, he's like catching and then sliding back to middle. They're all congregating right here, I think. Yeah, they're confused on the second ramp. I think definitely the goal switching is not working as it should. But clearly, I mean, they're getting better at handling this first ramp. And then as soon as I can get the goal switching to work, you know, once they're on this ramp, they'll figure out how to go towards it. And then eventually they'll figure out how to carry speed into it. Yeah, definitely some technical issue holding them back here. Because like that guy, you saw, he like went here to the left and then tried to skate back. they're all congregating in the center. They want the center. Even that guy, he wanted the center, even despite sliding out to the left. Oh well, this is why reinforcement learning takes a lot of iteration and a lot of trial and error. Of course, there is plenty more we can do to improve these guys in the future. Yeah, they're chilling. I'll let them finish the run. This is still good. And actually, one of the interesting things I could do, maybe we'll try it after because this run's almost done, and I'm not sure how long I'll rocket jump for. But, you know, if I end up staying live for a while more, one of the fun things we can do is actually take the output of this run, currently where they've, you know, learned how to surf this first ramp correctly, and then load that in, but change the goal to just this. So no double stage goal, just have it go straight here. And then that could possibly, it's a little janky. I don't expect it to work super well, but theoretically, they already know how to do this, and then you just add the goal, and then they could finish it off, perhaps. I don't know. Lots of different stuff you can try. You don't have to start from 0 every time. But speaking of starting from 0, I do have to restart. I'm just going to restart TF2 right away and not waste any time. I also do want to run level 4 again. Now that I've changed the reward to include that extra, you know, scalar velocity bonus, the extra XY velocity in any direction, because then hopefully that will make it more, what's the word, more incentivized, more enticing for them to try to go over the barrier instead of crawling through. Does the reward system stop? I think that's what's happening. I'm pretty sure something like that is going on, because if it worked as intended, they would be getting much closer to the actual exit door on the left, but they're just congregating in the center, which means the goal is not changing, most likely. But like I said, I give it a 90% chance of failing, and it seemingly did fall within that 90%, so